Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mega Cebu 2019 Candidates Forum. And now your hosts, Mega Cebu Advocate, Miss Caroline Ballesteros, and the Chairman of the Department of Political Science, School of Law and Governance of the University of San Carlos, Miss Brenette Abrenica.
Hello, maayong hapon. Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, Ma'am Bren. Yes. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the 2019 Mega Cebu Candidates Forum.
Maayong hapon, Ms. Carol.
Yes.
Maayong hapon, Carolinians, and maayong hapon sa tanan nga ni Tambong karon.
Yes, and to all of those who are watching via Facebook Live, wherever you are in the world, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, basta, good day. And to all of those who are watching their television sets at home, because we are being aired over MyTV. This is our third forum for the local candidates. We had two last Friday, actually, because we started in March, and for all of those who are following this forum, this series, no, we actually started in March with the senatorial candidates and party list groups. And the entire month of April is for our local candidates.
Okay, so Mega Cebu, together with other organizers, intended to provide a platform for our candidates to have a time to actually engage the voters, at the same time for our voters to get engaged with our candidates, so that a discerned and an informed vote is being cast come May 13, 2019.
Yes, and as of we have been telling our candidates, since this is being aired on Facebook Live, and after a while it's going to be uploaded in YouTube, they could actually use this to share to their friends, so that all of their supporters will know more about their platforms and will be able to make a wise decision.
At the same time, this provides us an avenue for us to record in public. May say our audience can actually review whatever statements our candidates will be giving in this particular session. And at the end of the show, we will be flashing back all of the commitments that will be given by the candidates. And at the same time, they will be giving their sign of support and commitment to those statements by signing our bugsay later on.
Yes, and just so that you are aware, we were supposed to have two sessions today. However, the party of Jonas Cortez, they confirmed to attend. They were supposed to be at the 1:30 session, but last minute he sent us a text message saying he is withdrawing from attending the forum. And we tried to also contact Berside and Lollipop. They said they also have other commitments, emergency, but we hope that they will be able to make it, because we are really trying to find time for them to come here and present their platform. So we are hoping that by Wednesday they will confirm, because they did not really say that they're withdrawing, only Jonas Cortez.
Yes, and only for this particular schedule. So maybe some other schedules, we open an opportunity for also to take them into the forum.
Yes,
all right.
And we would like to also say that one of the organizers, of course, Comelec, was the one that really sent out all of the invites to make it really official. They sent to all. So many were called, but only a few chose to come to be here. So we would like to thank those who really took time out of their really very hectic schedule to be here and present themselves to the public. It's what you call accountability.
Yes.
And you mentioned earlier about the bugsay. You did mention that. So if you see this bugsay over here, for those who are new to this forum, we have this bugsay. Actually, the bugsay is the symbol of the Mega Cebu program. It is in our logo, and it's here in my logo here, and it symbolizes cooperation. Why? Because Cebu is an island, the Philippines is an archipelago, and the bugsay symbolizes the bayanihan spirit. This was actually championed by our founder, one of the stalwarts of the Mega Cebu program, the late Bobby Aboitis. Iyahaning gipa-trademark, gipa-copyright kadi niya bugsay philosophy. That if everybody will just get on the bangka and hold on to their bugsay and bugsay together in the same direction as you would in a dragon boat competition, you would get to your destination faster if you work together. So what we are actually trying to symbolize here is cooperation amongst the different LGUs, okay? Kaya di man gud pwede nga magkanya-kanya ta. Because the problem of one LGU is the problem of the other LGU. Kay ang atong gi-address diri sa Mega Cebu are transboundary issues. Traffic, flooding, garbage, waste management, septage management, so all of that, which affects us, particularly the youth of today, kay sila bayay mo inherit ani in the next few years.
So intergovernmental and interlocal governmental relations is very vital, and this will give us an idea of how an urbanizing Cebu will be able to move forward and give examples to other cities also urbanizing in nature about how they have to feel and respond to their problems.
Okay, so I think we're ready. We would now like to call on Election Officer 4 of COMELEC. He has been very, very supportive of this forum ever since we started planning this. Please welcome on stage Ferdinand Guhilde for the opening remarks.
Thank you, Ma'am Carol. And apparently, Miss Bren has an alternative career path. Maayo kayo. Sige, maayong hapon sa tanan and welcome to the Candidates Forum. So, kaning atong Candidates Forum is actually non-partisan. Otherwise, dili ni masanction sa COMELEC, no? And the best evidence nga non-partisan is because we sent out invitations to each and every candidate. Pero sama sa gisulti ni Ma'am Carol, gamay ray nakatunga. So, of course, we have to respect also their prior commitments probably. Okay, so this is non-partisan and multi-sectoral, and I think Dean Estenso is not a stranger to the academic community because he has been Dean of the College of the University of San Carlos. And we have here also the incumbent Mayor and Vice Mayor of Mandaue City. Actually, I was excited to know nga sa Mandaue City ang mga kandidato because that is actually my original jurisdiction. But several times over, I have been reshuffled to other places. But I think the last time, I was the proclaiming authority of this tandem, no? The mayor and the vice mayor. But for now, wala na. I think I'll be assigned in Mandaue City. Sige. So welcome, and I'm gonna tell our candidates from Mandaue City, you are actually in a better place today because you are in an academic community where, especially Carolinian students, are known for being inquisitive, independent, and they choose candidates not according to name recall, but they choose candidates according to platform of government, according to credentials, and according to what they can actually do for the cities where they present themselves as candidates. So having said that, I welcome you all to this Candidates Forum, and we hope that we can learn something from the candidates today. And for the Carolinian community, we all know that you have the discernment, and I think this is one better platform for us to even enhance that discernment for the forthcoming 2019 elections. Thank you and good afternoon.
Dagang salamat, Attorney Ferdinand Guhilde. Okay. By the way, Attorney Guhilde is also a faculty for election law at the College of Law of the University of San Carlos.
Oh, okay. So he's at home here.
Yes.
Okay.
At this particular point, we would like to call in a faculty of the Department of Political Science to actually read aloud the Candidates Forum Mechanics and Guidelines. Please welcome Ms. Kay Conales.
Mayong hapon. Allow me to read the mechanics and rules for today's forum. For the candidates, this forum shall provide a platform for both candidates and voters to engage each other to guide the discernment of voters and their choice of candidates in the May 13, 2019 midterm elections. We'd like to emphasize that this is not a debate. The format will not tolerate grandstanding and overexposure of selected candidates. Second, candidates must address the question, what can you offer Cebu province in general and Metro Cebu in particular as it experiences urbanization? Third, campaign videos and banners will not be allowed in the forum. Only a 5-slide PowerPoint presentation is allowed, and only if it is aligned with the candidate's message or answer during the opening remarks and the facilitated discussion. Fourth, be mindful of your time allocation. All candidates must strictly follow the allotted time per segment. Opening and closing messages are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per candidate, and the hosts will provide the cue for your time allocation during the facilitated discussions and the interaction time with the audience. An electronic timer will guide each speaker for this purpose. Number 5, no candidate is allowed to use foul language in both the main speech and responses. A candidate who violates this rule will be reprimanded. If the offense is repeated after the reprimand, the candidate will be politely asked to leave the forum. Number 6, candidates are instructed to engage each other with respect and dignity. Speakers are not allowed to use insults and damaging insinuations against each other, especially if these can trigger heated discussions. A limited number of campaign supporters may join the delegation of the candidate, but they are not allowed to openly campaign or loiter in any part of the campus. Rules for audience and participants. We have a multi-stakeholder audience from the academe, specifically educators, students, and staff, labor, transport groups, urban, poor, women, agriculture, among other sectors, here and, of course, online. Number 2, as stakeholders, our primary question to each candidate is, what can you do for Cebu province in general and Metro Cebu in particular? Number 3, to ensure that issues from all sectors are tackled, questions from the audience may be written in sheets of paper handed out by ushers and usherettes at the forum. Questions will be checked and finalized by the screening committee. Number 4, no foul language will be tolerated from the participants or audience in their questions or random comments. Ushers will approach violators in their seats to reprimand them. Number 5, noise will not be allowed for the entire duration of the forum. Those who disturb this session will be reprimanded and may be asked to leave the hall as needed. Those are the rules and mechanics, and we hope we have a fruitful session today. Good afternoon.
Thank you.
So, Ms. Kay, thank you very much for the mechanics. At this particular point, we proceed
With the introduction of our
Alright.
candidates. Okay, so we would like now to call on the mayoral candidate for Mandaue City, the incumbent mayor, Luigi Kisumbing, representing Nationalist People's Coalition.
the Vice Mayoral Candidate, DC, Attorney Carlo Fortuna.
Opposition, 6th District Legislative Representative Candidate, Attorney Baldomero Estenzo, representing the Nationalist People's Coalition. If you in the past forums, we actually had a timer here, but it's not there anymore. It means to say that you are free to just keep on talking. Yes.
But not too long, though.
Okay, so we will start now with the opening statements. Okay, we'll start with you, Mayor.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for inviting us to the Candidates Forum this afternoon. It's refreshing, quite frankly, to see this room from this perspective. When I was a student at the San Carlos School of Law, we were frequently here, but I was on that side. So it's nice to be. It's nice to have a different.
So you're at
perspective of
home
this room.
here, Mayor.
Oh, absolutely. So again, thank you very much to Mega Cebu, to COMELEC, 888 Forum, and all of the other organizers and conveners for today's Candidates Forum for inviting us. We were only too happy to be with all of you today.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Vice?
Yeah, again, just like the mayor, I'd like to thank each and everyone, especially the organizers, for inviting us to this candidates forum. And I know there are a lot of pressing issues, and I understand that the forum will be tackling the major concerns that Mega Cebu has been addressing these past years. And mas maining karon para maklaro do kayo kung sa dito baruganan.
Klarohay Ta.
Exactly.
And I think you're a first timer here, attorney. I mean,
As a candidate?
as a candidate, yes.
Yeah, this is my first time to venture into politics, but this is my home for 4 years.
Yes.
This is where I learned accountancy. This is where I first played varsity basketball. So I'm glad to be back. I used to be always here in this room before, although it's very different now. And thank you very much for inviting us and giving us the opportunity to elucidate on what we plan to do. Thank you.
Yeah. Before we start asking them questions, we would like to also mention that if you would like to post photos on social media, please use the hashtag Mega Cebu Klarohay Ta 2019. The Klarohay is with an O. Klaro. Kaya basig marong spelling na dili siya. Kay ang uban mo gud kay you. Oo. So, yes. And at the same time, you can also use hashtag Mega Cebu Candidates Forum 2019. Okay. So,
And also, you can throw your questions via our Mega Cebu online Facebook page so that we can ask them to our candidates here.
yes. Actually, we have a lot of supporters already who are watching us on Facebook Live. Okay? Atong unang pangutana lang, kumusta naman ang atong kampanya, Mayor, Vice, Sir? How's the campaign going?
Good, long, tiring. In short, it's the same as any other campaign period. But again, the nice thing about the campaign period is every time you go out into the barangays, into the sitios, you get a first-hand look at the reaction of people pag abot nimo. And we've been very gratified by the level of support and how warm we've been received in each and every sector in every corner of Mandaue City. It's been a tremendous energy boost for us and our group.
Okay.
Vice?
Yeah, in addition to that, it gives us a first-hand, validation of whether we're on the right track. The programs that we have implemented in the past 3 years since we started in 2016, programs on social services that we did, and infrastructure programs, especially that address the flooding, especially the major flooding in AS Fortuna, and a lot of things. That gives us an opportunity to also engage with our constituents and our voters. But all in all, since it's day one and to today, it's been a very good campaign. The reception is very strong, and we're very, very confident that in May 2013, Mayor and I will get a fresh mandate.
Okay. Attorney.
Well, as a first-time candidate, it is very encouraging for me. I've been with the team of Luigi and Mayor Luigi and Vice Mayor Carlo the past few days, and I have seen poverty at its worst. But the people are very happy when they shake the hands of the mayor, the vice mayor, and the other candidates, and they truly appreciate what this administration has done for them.
What got you into politics, attorney, if I may ask you?
Well, somebody asked me to run for Congress in this election. At first, I really said I will not be a candidate because I've never been a politician before. And I don't think I have a good chance of winning because I'm not known. I'm not a politician. But they persistently convinced me. They convinced my brothers and sisters. So I went through a process of consultation. And then, just before the close of the deadline for the filing of the certificate of candidacy, the question was asked to me, can you turn your back to the opportunity of serving the 6th district? At any rate, you will be in good company. And I said, who will be in my party? And I was told that I will be with Governor Magpali, Agnes Magpali, as Vice Governor Junjun Magpali, and Junjun Davide, sorry. And then for provincial board, it will be Edetha Flores Cabahog. And I was told that I will be with the current administration, the administration of Mayor Luigi Kisumbing and Vice Mayor Carlo Fortuna. That made me decide that I am in good company. There is no taint of corruption in any of these politicians. They serve well. And so I think I can also give my best if ever I will have the chance to be elected.
Thank you very much. Maybe we can also ask Mayor and Vice, what's keeping you moving? If Attorney Estenso would like to join the group to contribute, what about the both of you? Why do you want to continue serving in those positions?
You know, if you prayed earlier in our prayer, the greater things are yet to come of our city, and I know that Cebu can be greater. I know Mandaue City can be better, and there's so many challenges that we see every day. But these challenges are opportunities for us to level up, you know, to improve the lives of our people. And I believe that I have given this opportunity, and I want to be part of that opportunity to make things better for Mandaue. And as long as it's there, I'd like to grab it.
Thank you. Mayor?
Yeah, I guess simply it's because there's really a tremendous social imbalance in Mandaue City. The progress that we've seen in terms of infrastructure, in terms of commercial activity, hasn't really filtered all the way down to the poorest levels of society. And we feel that in Mandaue City, that is a great injustice. We need to be able to balance economic progress with social activity. And unfortunately, for many, many decades, the balance has been skewed towards those that, I suppose we can call them the haves rather than the have-nots. And this is something that our administration, together with Vice Mayor Carlo, have been seeking to address over the last 3 years, to find a way to balance economic progress and opportunity with the, I suppose, with the progress of the poorest members of society. We feel, quite frankly, that a rising tide should raise all ships. And if we are able to uplift and provide for better opportunities for the poorest segments of society in Mandaue City, we feel that this will have a domino effect for economic progress, not just for the upper crust, not just for the A, B, and upper C sectors, but across all demographics.
Thank you very much. Ms. Carol?
Okay, so our discussions this afternoon will be based on the different themes that are under the Mega Cebu program. So first, we will start with traffic, transport and traffic management. I'd like to ask, Mayor, you know, in the Metro Cebu, drivers are basically scared, or they're very careful when they get into Mandaue because they're sure that they will be apprehended if they violate traffic rules and regulations. Now, with the coming underpass, we can expect heavy traffic for the construction. What are your measures, the measures that you have prepared in order to avoid this future, we hope, not so much traffic?
Yeah, the problem with traffic always has been and always will be a question of capacity. In effect, we are experiencing historical highs for the last, if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 year historical highs in the automotive industry, which means that on a daily basis, hundreds of new cars, motorcycles, multi-cabs, and trucks are added onto our already congested streets. Now, the challenge there is to be able to widen the capacity of our roads, which is very difficult considering the land value in Mandaue. For example, DPWH has set several 100 million pesos to widen Hernan Cortez Road. However, because of the acquisition cost of land in Mandaue City, they're only able to widen, if I'm not mistaken, something like 3 meters, which is about a lane. So 1 lane of additional road with several 100 million pesos being spent is really, it's not cost efficient. Eventually, the capacity of the vehicular volume will overtake that. So what we need and what we've been working on with the national government is to have viable mass transit in an interconnected solution to make sure that we'll be able to take some vehicles off the road. It's especially compounded by the fact that Mandaue City is a logistics hub. That means that a lot of companies that used to manufacture in Mandaue are now using their property as a transshipment point, going to the airport, going to the seaport. And that means that not only are there more cars and more vehicles on the road, it's actually bigger vehicles now. So we are working to try to decongest the passenger traffic with mass transit options. And in critical corridors, like in United Nations Avenue, as you mentioned, with the underpass, what we are trying to do is we are trying to acquire parcels of land that we will be able to use to be I suppose a temporary or a pressure release valve, because these roads, no matter how much of the roads we're able to buy, will really only be temporary solutions until we have viable mass transit options. So in the interim, what we are doing is enforcing the traffic discipline that we've established in Mandaue City. We have been developing alternate routes around the periphery of the project, and we are also exploring other non-conventional traffic solutions, such as our joint venture with Gothong to open water taxis, which will allow passenger traffic, non-cargo traffic, to traverse the Mactan Channel without having to go through the surface streets of Mandaue City, which we believe will be tremendously helpful.
Okay. You want to add something to that, Vice?
Yeah, part of the traffic management plan with the proposed underpass was the establishment of the service roads. We made the point during the meetings with the DPWH that the underpass should not commence unless the service roads are built, and that's being done right now, because the bridge will not be closed when the underpass starts. When they start digging and start the construction, this Marcelo Fernandez Bridge will not be closed to traffic, which means to say that on the side roads which are being cemented, it will still be possible, and because it will be a nightmare if you close Marcelo Fernandez Bridge and put all the pressure on the first bridge. That's what we're doing right now.
When are you going to start with the construction?
If I may. The project is actually not ours. The project is a DPWH project.
When are they starting?
So we are dependent on their timeline. Like Vice Mayor mentioned, we absolutely insisted that the alternate routes and the roads in the periphery must be at least usable before they commence their project, which is why, as far as we know, it's led to several delays in the implementation of the START project. But that's absolutely non-negotiable, because if we were to begin the construction of the underpass without providing for these alternate roads, you can imagine that the traffic will be horrendous.
All right. Now, in particular about the access roads that you are building in the periphery, are there expropriation issues that you have to confront, or how are you dealing with the local government, barangays?
Primarily, the DPWH took the first approach of using what was existing sidewalk as their primary expansion, because, as you know, there are quite a number of private establishments already that exist along UN Avenue. So the first pass of the construction was to remove a section, though not completely, no, but there was, I think, a little bit more than half of the existing sidewalk was taken from both sides to serve as road widening. And there are actually exit lanes, service roads on the side closer to the bridge itself, which these roads will lead into.
And when they acquired the UN Avenue from the private landowners, they already set a setback from the existing sidewalk. There's like, I think, 3 or 4 meter setback for their road right of way acquisition.
Whatever happened to the tri-level flyover in that area also, Mayor?
Yeah, that's a good question. We really don't know why the DPWH abandoned the second phase of the construction. We are in talks with the DPWH as well to find out exactly what their plan will be, no, to expand. It's especially critical for us that there be a diversion towards the Kansaga Bay in order to further alleviate the traffic, because the problem with that particular intersection in UN Avenue is because the traffic going towards Mactan is actually headed in 3 separate directions and vice versa. So the fact is, with the stoplight having to deal with that load, the traffic gets backed up quite significantly. So what we'd like to do, and what the original thought behind the tri-level flyover was that the cars that would be going towards Mactan would be uninterrupted and unhindered by the stoplight. Dire-diretso ra gyud sila. Unya, ang kanama, I can speak sir. Ang kanama sakyanan na padung unta sa Kansagabi, di sad sila muhunong sa stoplight, there will be a overpass that will take them on that left turn heading towards, and there would have been another level that would have come from Kansaga into Plaridel Street, completely bypassing the flyover as well, the intersection as well. But for whatever reason, the DPWH has decided not to continue the project as originally conceived. Perhaps they have a different design, or perhaps they have a different methodology that they'd like to adopt. But again, we're still in discussions with them.
As far as mass transport that you're talking about, what are you proposing from your end, from Mandaue City?
Basically, no mass transit exists in a vacuum. There's no such thing as one or the other. We need all of them, right? I mean, you need a habal-habal that will take you from the door of your house to the main road. You need a tricycle that will take you from the barangay road to the main road. And then you will need buses for the highways that will lead into a rail system that will take you from municipality to city to city. It's not one solution, and it really is a sort of interconnected ecosystem. I guess, because you really need several solutions in order to completely decongest the traffic load. Because unfortunately, what we see is that most of the traffic, I would say a good 60% of our traffic, is basically private car owners. And the reason why mapugos bitaw sila mupalit silang mga sakyanan is because there are no viable mass transit options in Cebu. We feel that if we are able to build a interconnected feeder system towards a efficient mass transit system, I would imagine that the majority of people that drive would prefer to take mass transit.
The City Council adopted already the report of the TRICA, the transportation plan. It recommended the rail system, the UMRT, the urban mass rail transport that cuts across Metro Cebu, and then it links the Mactan Island. And it's going to be rail. It's definitely rail. The Philippines transportation setting is multimodal. As Mayor said, it's Rumulabal and jeepney, and then buses and taxis and other modes, right? But right now it should be the UMRT. When we went to Japan, and I represented Mandaue City, and then a team from Lapu-Lapu and RDC and Lapu-Lapu City, we visited Yokohama and Kobe. And Kobe is almost the same as Cebu City, except the mountains are nearer the coastline. And it experienced the same kind of problem of traffic congestion because population was concentrated at the center of the city. What they did was they implemented a transportation oriented system. Meaning to say, they built rail lines, destinations. At the end of the destinations, they created tenements, they created communities. So, in the end, they dispersed the population. So, what remains in the city are commercial establishments, and the reclamation is industrial establishments. So, by creating a better transport system, as what the mayor said, it addresses urbanization issues. So Cebu is bigger than Kobe City. Cebu Island is bigger than Kobe City, and I think it's about time that we ask the national government to put more money here and put up the UMRT for Metro Cebu and the Cebu Island.
Okay. In terms of infrastructure development, last Friday, okay, we had as guests here Congressman Gwen, and she mentioned that the CICC actually was sold to the Mandaue City government for 300 million. What are your plans for the CICC, Mayor?
Well, we entered into agreement with a joint venture agreement, a PPP, if you will, with a private company that's planning to put up an entertainment complex. They will be building a convention hall as well, a convention center, as well as a commercial high-density residential establishment, which will also have facilities for gaming, which we feel is going to provide a much-needed boost to the economy of the city. Because as we know, whenever you have high-density commercial, casino gaming, high-density residential, these are massive employment generators. And the company that we partnered with has had significant experience in this particular field, as well as a significant player base. We feel that of the 3 entertainment complexes that are going to be built in Cebu, one in Lapu-Lapu, one in Mandaue, and one in Cebu City, the proximity to the airport, the proximity to the seaport, as well as the know-how and institutional knowledge of our PPP partner will make Mandaue City by far the most profitable of all 3. And we feel that it's going to be a game changer for the economy as we work towards rebuilding the reclamation area in Mandaue.
So just to clarify, it wasn't sold to a private company.
No,
It's
not
you
at
have
all.
a PPP with so that it's going to be developed
Yeah,
further.
what we bought from the province was actually only the building. The land is actually still and always has been owned by the city of Mandaue. So we entered into a private company to be able to put up this development with no cost to the city whatsoever. And again, we feel that this entire area, the reclamation area, is primed to be an economic powerhouse in the years to come, considering several large-scale developments that will be coming up in that area. We are actually in the process now of renaming the entire zone as the Mandaue Central Business District. And with the infrastructure, we have been working with the utility companies, for example, and we've been very happy that most of them have agreed to pursue underground cabling, for example, so that the skyline is uninterrupted. We are working with the law enforcement communities because their headquarters and a SWAT detachment is in the vicinity of those developments as well. So we'll be able to provide for a safe zone for tourists. We think that this area really will be the next most exciting destination in the province of Cebu.
Yeah, I'd like to add. We call it the Infinite City. That's the term for it. It's Infinite City. So
Infinite?
Infinite City.
Okay.
Yeah. It's going to be world class, right? It's like Resorts World, Novo, the one that you see in Isiana in Pasay. And if you look at that line there, then it's a CDO on the street. You will have Infinite City, you have Bayotown, then you have Mandani Bay, right? It's going to change the entire landscape of Mandaue City and that of Metro Cebu. And Infinite City is going to invest $300 million on that land, right?
From the private company.
Yeah, the private company, the one that the city and the city of Mandaue has entered into. We call it a joint venture and concession agreement. And we feel it's better. It's better for the city because for the longest time since we had this joint venture with the province and Cebu and Mandaue City, we didn't earn anything. It was supposed to be a joint venture. We didn't earn anything from the revenues that, according to the then administration, was earning out of the use of the CICC. And right now, I think it's about time that we maximize the use of our land and at the same time generate that needed employment as well as investments for Mandaue City. That is our contribution to the growth, continued growth of the economy of Cebu and the Metro Cebu.
So that's part of the roadmap that you're painting for Mandaue.
It's a piece of the puzzle, I suppose. It's certainly not just the one development that we're pursuing. We really envision that entire area will be something that will kickstart the economy of the city of Mandaue. Part of our problem, Manggod, is that as attractive as Mandaue is as an investment destination, many people shy away from investing in Mandaue because of the lack of usable land. It's difficult to consolidate land in the city of Mandaue unless you're able to talk to a landholder that has a significant portion of land. If you want to develop, say, more than a hectare, it's so expensive to buy land in the city of Mandaue now. So what we'd like to do is develop certain pockets to drive our economy and to continue to be able to generate income for us to be able to provide basic services for the rest of the city, which is primarily still industrial and residential.
Maybe we can ask Attorney Estenzo, what do you think are the legislative agenda needs in order to support this roadmap?
As congressman of the 6th District, he should be the voice of the people through the public officials. So whatever public officials would need from Congress or from the national government, that should be attended to with dispatch by the congressman. So assistance should be there because they are the frontliners. No?
In particular, there was a mention of the need for national government to pour in funds to support these initiatives. How do you think you can champion that at the lower house?
Yes, because no money from the national treasury will come out of it, and except through a law or an appropriation. So it has to be attended to.
Okay, so at least you have a champion in the lower house. Okay.
If I may go back to traffic management, I'm correct if I'm wrong, but I think it's only Mandaue City that has that command center where, you know, I was able to visit your command center during one time in a Mega Cebu visit. Has any other LGU in the Metro Cebu at least gone to see it, and are there any, for benchmarking, yeah?
There have been quite a number of visitors to the command center. Our command center, as you know, is in transition right now. We are in the beginning stages of installing our new ITS, which is the Intelligent Traffic System. The weakness, I suppose, of the old command center is that everything was manual. In effect, in order to catch violations, somebody has to be looking at the screen.
Yeah.
And while the initiative was good, it relied very heavily on human intervention to be able to be effective. We just recently bid out and purchased the new ITS, Intelligent Traffic System, that we are working together with the LTO to be able to issue traffic violations via the AI, the artificial intelligence in the system. This is better, much better, because one of the biggest reasons for traffic is the issuance of traffic violations.
Yes.
For example, if somebody is caught doing an illegal left turn and the traffic enforcer catches them, ipahunong sa, unya ipadaplin sa ang sakyanan, and then they will issue a traffic citation, and quite often a debate ensues. No? And during that entire time, there is a interruption in the smooth traffic, in what would otherwise be a smooth traffic flow. We are working now with the LTO so that any violations that are captured by the ITS will immediately be flagged by the system. And mas bugat ang katong mga violations karon because since it is the LTO itself via MOA that will be issuing the tickets, mas bugat ang fine. Yeah. Now, we are also working with the NICA, the National Intelligence Coordinating Agency, because we have a provision in the system not only for license plate and violation recognition, we also have a component for facial recognition. So in case there are personalities that are on the most wanted lists or terrorists that are at large, the NICA can input them in our system, and if they pass any of the ITS points, which will be through, in the first phase, 14 major intersections in the city of Mandaue, they will also immediately be flagged at the command center.
Wow, that's impressive, no? I hope that's going to happen.
Yes, and
We
you will be the
are
first in the
hoping that
Philippines?
No, no, not by far. There's quite a few already. We are working with the same company that has installed the one on the NLEX in Manila and in other areas. We, I believe, are the first in Cebu, though, to install that system. And we feel that it will be a tremendous boost, not just for traffic management, but also for peace and order and security.
Will this also include, and we hope, no, accidents like bangga, which actually is the number one cause of traffic, no? Kaya makabangga, mohuwat pa sa police maabot, kay liun pa, ireglo pa, drawingon pa. Will that ITS also help solve that?
Sort of. We are, of course, we don't exist, funnily enough, on an island because we have to work with other law enforcement agencies. We did, however, work with PRO7 back in 2016 to allow a certain number of our personnel to be able to do the traffic sketching. In the past, that was exclusively done by police officers. However, they allowed our team riders, ang ato mga mounted na traffic enforcers, to be able to do it, but they're few and far between. There are only about 30 of them, and that's a triple shift. So we're actually, just the other day, we finished our new basic refresher course sa Cordova with a new batch of riders. We've doubled the force to about 60, and we hope that will allow for better coverage.
Yes, Vice.
It's a good thing you mentioned about accidents. The number one, most vehicles that are involved in accidents are motorcycles.
Yes.
So from 2016, the mayor said let's implement a traffic discipline zone. You see that counterflowing?
Yes.
Motorcycles. It's not just going against the flow. It's risking hitting somebody crossing the road, coming from let's say on one side is very traffic, so you expect that there's no one crossing. All of a sudden, it is this motorcycle counterflowing, and then there is old man or this lady crossing the road, and that's it. So
that happens many times.
or sometimes it's a motorcycle, and then there's a car who swerves to the right or swerves to the left, and then there's an accident. So we have been appealing to the motorists, to the drivers, just be patient. Be patient in Mandaue City to avoid accidents. But the only way to do that is to instill discipline.
So will your ITS also capture that, the counterflowing?
Yes.
Good.
The only blind spots that we have are in between intersections. So the discussion right now is to install cams on our riders,
Yes.
and mobile traffic vehicles, so that we can have live feeds from the field to the command center. So in between the intersections, we can still capture violations
Without having to physically stop them.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the one that's the ITS that the mayor mentioned is about the license plate recognition. So it captures the license plate each time it passes a certain intersection in the city, and you can actually trace where that car came from because there's a timeline. So let's say it's involved in a robbery or accident or hit and run, so on. Then you can actually trace the vehicle.
That is really good, no? Kasi kani ba yung mga driver, no? Ang bantayan ragid nila ang kanang enforcers. Kung wa gani,
Driver ka, no?
ha? I am a very careful driver. Yes.
Sorry, if I may continue. The reason why ITS is so exciting for us is its capability for expansion. For example, in NLEX in Manila, one of the features that they just launched recently is that they actually have drones that patrol certain points around the NLEX, and that's something that we can maybe eventually, if budget permits, implement that in Mandaue, where the drone will fly a certain patrol point and continue to capture violations along the way. The technology is really amazing, and it's something that we're very excited about.
Will this also include speed limit Like in the US, you have this 65 kilometers per hour only, and then some.
Sort of. It's very difficult to overspeed when traffic is this bad.
Well, in traffic,
But,
yes, but there are areas na
But there are areas, certainly.
yes.
And we are working with the police for particularly tempting areas to overspeed, I would say, especially around the reclamation area and some other points.
In the JICA roadmap study, I know that in Cebu they have identified intersections that are supposedly going to undergo geometric improvements, like flaring. Are there intersections in Mandaue that have been identified to go through that?
Yeah, we're always limited primarily by our budgetary constraints. What we've chosen to focus on in the first 3 years of our term in the city is we needed to make significant improvements to the flooding situation in the city of Mandaue, because the drainage lines and the drainage systems in the city were so disjointed. In effect, they were spot repairs, right? If kung pananglitan na baha sa usa ka lugar, ilang iayo ang drainage diha, pero tubig manggod na. So eventually it will go somewhere else, and then another area is flooded, and then they fix that, and then the next area is flooded. The first thing we did was to work with the University of the Philippines to come up with a drainage master plan for the city of Mandaue, which we completed in 2018. Our intention was, as the study was being conducted, we budgeted along those lines. We've seen significant improvement in the flooding in several key areas of the city already. However, it still needs a massive overhaul. For the outflow, for example, the outfall of the Butuanan River, that project alone is going to cost us something like 300 million. So that's not something we can do in one pass. We allocated 60 million, 60 million this year for the first phase of the implementation, but as you can imagine, that full completion will likely take us about 3 years or so. But in the meantime, we are working towards improving our drainage. With regards to the infrastructure of the road network itself, we have actually already begun the process of requesting the DPWH if we can take back some of our roads. Because right now, as you know, with every right-of-way, there's a question of jurisdiction. Is it a barangay road? Is it a city road? Is it a provincial road or a national road? Mandaue has become very fit financially over the last 2 years. And we are actually in the process now of working with our planning department to take some of those roads back so that Mandaue City can be the one to develop and maintain the roads. The DPWH, believe good ko, no? They do a great job, but they actually have very little funds for maintenance. They primarily deal in the construction and the total project. So for us, if we're able to retain or regain, I suppose, the jurisdiction, we'll be able to more closely adhere to the JICA roadmap, the JICA traffic study, as well as the other infrastructure initiatives that our planning department has been working in. We're very happy that our planning office works very closely with JICA, with Mega Cebu, and several other stakeholders.
Yes, Vice.
I'd just like to add, since the Mayor mentioned about flooding, while we're improving the outfall, it's also best that Cebu City reduces the volume, because the continuous development of the Lamban area has contributed to so much volume stormwater coming down to Mandaue City. Unless interventions are being made in the uplands, right? In the uplands, the back of San Carlos, in Talamban, and the rest of that area there that captures the water, instead of just letting it flow down to Mandaue City. We would be, the efforts that we're doing right now, probably in the next 10 years, the capacity will reach its capacity, because the projection or whether the forecasters say that the rain volume would be much bigger in the coming years. Yeah. So there's a need to capture rainwater in the uplands of Cebu City.
From the upland pa, before it goes down.
Before going down to Mandaue City, because we're We're only catching water from Cebu City.
So no matter what you do, you're saying no matter what you do, improvement, particularly in AS Fortuna, I know that there have been a lot of improvements done there. How is the flooding situation in AS Fortuna now? Has it
Well, it used to be chest deep. Now it's
knee deep?
It's knee deep, and hopefully next time we talk, it'll be ankle deep, and then eventually it will be completely eradicated. It's a game of inches, and it will take some time. You know, you're talking about decades of abuse and neglect.
Yeah.
And we're doing what we can to reverse the trend, and it will take a village. Like we said, one of the reasons why we're so gratified by the efforts of Mega Cebu is because it does its best. No? It attempts to bring all of the stakeholders together to find integrated solutions. Though sometimes that's difficult, sometimes it's messy, but certainly we all need to have a goal to walk towards.
Right.
But it's something that we've been trying to address over the last 3 years with regards to our flooding. Again, we've seen tremendous improvement, but I'm not satisfied quite yet. I'd really like to be able to enjoy a rainy day without practically having a heart attack kay basid magbaha. So I look forward to the day when it rains and I can have a nice cup of coffee and not be worried.
So every time it rains, Mayor, gikulbaan gyud ka?
Of course, it's
Search and rescue.
you know, well, I'll tell you what. I mentioned earlier about the outfall in the Butuanan River. Just last week, our first day of campaign, we went to this area in Barangay Paknaan, where we are working on the outfall. I remember during the infancy of our term, siguro the first 2 weeks or something, we were called by the city city disaster management office because there was one area in Barangay Paknaan where the residents had been cut off due to rapidly rising floodwaters, compounded by the fact that one of the electricity posts had been compromised and the water was actually electrocuted.
Oh my gosh.
So a lot of the rescue personnel, you know, heroically as always, really tried to find a way to be able to save what I believe was about a dozen residents that had been cut off due to the floodwaters. You know, this was one challenge that we had very early in our term, and one of the reasons why it strengthened our resolves to finally do something about all of this. When we went back, the first day of our campaign last Friday, we were surprised because one of the residents came up to us and shook my hand and said, "Thank you very much." He was one of the people that was rescued that day. And I asked him how it had been so far. And they said that ever since we began work on the outfall, ever since we began work on the flood control and the dredging of the Butuanan River, they haven't seen any rise in water level since.
Okay.
So we were talking about Butuanan River. Mandaue City hosted the International River Summit last November 2018. Do you have any plans of pursuing the penalties or the sanctions for big and small industries who may have committed violations of, you know, pouring at the Butuanan River, whatever is not supposed to be poured?
Yeah, actually, the DNR has been monitoring these establishments. Some have been issued closure orders already, and the other were there are fine penalties like I think 5,000, 10,000 pesos. But in the recent meetings that we had with WACMA, the Water Quality Management Area, since Butuanan River is been declared as a WACMA, we are pushing for collaboration and cooperation instead of acting like a policeman and then fining and issuing violations against these establishments. And there's a certain establishment in Mandaue City. It's a very big plant. It's a very big manufacturing plant. It's in meat processing, but it's zero waste. They use a lot of water because it's meat processing, but none of those water is being thrown towards Butuanan River. It's being recycled within the facility. Right now. So we've been telling the establishments, if this company can do it, why can't you? right? You just come up with the right technology and the right system instead of throwing your wastewater towards the Botswana River. Capture it, recycle it, and use it. In fact, the wastewater of this company is being used to for their garden. They have a farm inside the plant, and they have a fish pond also. So it's possible. So in the last meeting that we had, the challenge that the dean, our general director, said is like, let's push for zero wastewater disposal towards Botswana River.
Do you have tax incentives for companies that do that? Tax incentives for companies that practice what's this? How would you call that? Good environmental practices. Yeah.
Well, we can probably come up with one, right?
If I may.
Yeah.
We actually have some legislation. It's just that it's a bit funny. We have, for example, the Green Building Code, which provides for incentives for companies that build their infrastructure along a certain standard. The challenge that we've been having is that the Green Building Code is primarily directed towards residential and commercial facilities. Mandaue still is primarily industrial, and there are no standards in the Green Building Board for industrial structures yet. We are actually working with them now to try to come up with standards which will be the first in the country, because Mandaue still has a lot of manufacturing and a lot of the warehouses are used for logistics. So in order to be able to offer incentives for that, we'd like to be able to follow the Green Building Code, which unfortunately, when it was passed in the City Council in 2015, 2014, something like that, the standards for industrial structures which dominate, I suppose, Mandaue's economic landscape had not yet been formulated.
But perhaps it can be something that the good congressman can legislate, right? The incentives for all institutions or all establishments covering commercial, residential, and industrial.
So it does not take only a local legislation, but something national that can be implemented all throughout the country. Any thoughts on that, Attorney Stenson?
Yeah, problems about traffic and water is not just limited to a single local government unit. It has to be, there has to be an integrated solution. That's why this mega Cebu movement is a very positive movement for improvement of Cebu.
Okay.
On waste management, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Congressman, future, to be, yes. Two questions. One, how is your no plastic campaign going in Mandaue? I know that you started that. And also, in the closure of the Umapa dump site, it has worsened the garbage problem. Has it worsened the garbage problem in Mandaue, and what are your solutions?
Well, as a matter of fact, we're very bullish about the future of waste management in the city of Mandaue. First, the plastic ban ordinance was actually passed by my predecessor. They just had no intention of enforcing it for whatever purposes man to. The reduction of plastic is a movement that we've seen worldwide in response to some very critical ecological challenges. We've been so happy that in the last 2 years we've seen so many cities, not just in the Philippines but around the world, start to adopt the movement, and we've started to see it in commercial establishments as well. And what we've been so impressed by is that a lot of young people have also taken up the cudgels and the challenge. We've seen so many people that di na sila mupalit og bottled water. For example, magdagit sila ka ng their own bottle and ilan na lang i-refill. We've seen in many coffee shops younger people refusing to use plastic straws. We've seen that many people are now much more much more conscious about where they throw the plastic that they use, because the plastic ban is actually not a absolute ban. It is a ban on single-use plastics. Those that can be reused, we've seen a lot of people coming back and using them again and again, washing them out and using them, and we feel that this truly can be one of the areas where Mandaue can be a nation leader in waste management. Now, with the closure of the Omapa dump site, that was something that we're very thankful to JICA for, because through the efforts of Mega Cebu and JICA, we found out that the Omapa dump site is basically a ticking time bomb because of the methane gas deposits due to, well, decades of abuse and neglect. And really, it could have exploded at any time given the right conditions. Just last night, the other night, we had a fire in a dump site right beside, and in Uratex, and the presence of plastic and methane gas is so difficult for the firefighters to fight. It takes a lot of effort, and manually, the firefighters must dig in order to get to the source of the fire, which may be under layers and layers and layers of plastic. Not to mention the fact that there was methane gas and plastic in the air after it was burned is extremely hazardous to the residents that live around the dump site itself, which is why we decided to pursue the complete rehabilitation of the Omapa dump site while we pursue possible waste-to-energy solutions. We feel that that is the most viable solution. However, the standards of the DNR are quite stringent. So we have actually been asking them to work with us to give us a list of companies that are certified to conduct waste-to-energy so that we can talk to them. In the meantime, we have been bringing our waste to Consolacion, and we have been dumping there in the meantime since we are not allowed to use the Omapa dump site. We've taken the additional step through the initiative of Vice Mayor Carlo of enforcing the no segregation, no collection policy, because we have also been throwing our plastic waste into a plastic recycling facility also in Consolacion, which produces fuel that other industries can use. We feel that at least it can also help in the sustainability of some of our industries around Cebu.
Yes, Vice.
Yeah, that's why, the problem of waste in Mandaue brings back the bigger problem of the importance of integration of all the municipalities and cities of Cebu. Just imagine if Consolacion refuses to accept our garbage. Because there are two facilities there. One is Yokohama-based, the one that Mayor mentioned about recycling residual waste, and the
That's
other
the
one is
Goon, right?
Goon, yeah, the Yokohama-based company. The other one is Asian Energy. Asian Energy is essentially like biodegradable waste that are being disposed in that area. But now we're looking at another one in Cebu City. Cebu City, there's ARN Builders.
Yeah, ARN. That's
Yeah.
the Cebu Integrated Waste Management Facility.
Right. And its facility is better than the one in Consolacion because the roads are pretty wide and it's cemented, and it's very accessible to from Mandaue to Cebu City. And
Right.
we're looking at the possibility of perhaps
That's good. Yeah.
disposing of waste
Yeah.
there. So if we don't have that kind of attitude, that cooperation among LGUs, we would be having a tremendous problem on where to dump our waste because the dump site has been closed. And as the Mayor said, it's like decades of neglect, like 40 years. For 40 years, that site has been used as a dump site in Mandaue City. Just imagine the amount of methane that's being captured in that area.
How deep did JICA say that?
That's, about 30 feet.
30 meters of waste. Wow.
That
Oh.
deep.
Yeah, but in relation to Omapa Dam site, it's an open secret that there are residents in Omapa Dam site. So the closure of the dam site actually displaced a number of families and communities. How did the city respond to this?
We've been providing livelihood training and employment opportunities. The difficulty is, of course, many residents are so used to that lifestyle, even though it was hazardous, that the adaptation to new sources of income was very slow on the uptake. But really, I don't know if you visited the dump site prior to the clearing and the closure.
Yes, we did.
You know,
Yes.
there was a time I remember in 2013 when I was running for Congress, and we visited a particular area of the dump site where one family had taken it upon themselves to specialize in collecting glass residue, you know, broken bottles, jars, etc. And when we went there for one campaign activity back in 2013, I remember quite well that I think it was a member of your staff actually, that fell. That must have been 2016 then. Then a member of the staff of Vice Mayor Carlo was campaigning, tripped and fell on all of the
glass.
the
Oh my
broken
gosh.
glass, and came out with so many nicks and scratches. And I remember that there were children that were playing around the broken glass. And if you ever saw all of the residents in that area, the majority of the children that were living and were not given any sort of assistance by prior administrations, the children that were living there, the majority of them were malnourished, one, yes, but they had severe skin conditions as well because of the exposure to all of the emissions from the trash, and of course the contamination of the water and food, the germination. It was really, 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 really depressing. And while we understand that many of them were used to being scavengers, there also has to be a point where, as local government officials, we must take it upon ourselves also to provide for the betterment of our communities, even though that might sometimes make it a difficult choice. Yes, and it was not without its challenges. But again, I am absolutely confident that with the steps we've taken, we've given the future generations of those that used to live around that site a better chance, a fighting chance.
Thank you very much. Because we have this story from among our SVD brothers and fathers who frequent Umapa dam site. When there was a study by Father Gaot saying that social exclusion in Mandaue City is very pronounced, where residents were asked to go to the barangays and the city at one point in time before, they were referred to as non-Mandaue residents. But when the election came a month before, they also did the same thing. They went back to the barangay and to the city hall, and then they were considered as voters. So that was a very pronounced social exclusion that the residents actually experienced. And this is recorded also by our SVD brothers and fathers who do apostolate. So it's something that we would like to challenge local government units, not only for Mandaue but elsewhere, Cebu City and Lapu-Lapu City and others. Because these individuals become voters, very vital during elections, but in between, they are, they're along with the area, they're dumb.
Well, that social inequity and social, if I may respond, I'm sorry I took it upon myself to pick up the microphone. That social inequity and lack of a balanced income for society is one of the reasons why during our term, Vice Mayor Carlo and I started one of our flagship programs, which we call the HELPS Center. What we found was that there was a lack of availability of social services in the city of Mandaue. And as we know, the social services are what we need to invest in order to be able to uplift the lives of those that who, quite frankly, are less well off, I suppose. Which is why through our Help Center program, we've been investing quite heavily in educational assistance, in medical assistance, as well as other benefits such as livelihood. Gani, that's the reason why we call it HELPS. It's because it's hinabang sa edukasyon, livelihood, ug panglawas sa tanan. So this is one of the programs that we feel we'll be able to continue to build our communities by investing in education, in healthcare, and in livelihood. Like we said earlier, the attention was given primarily in order to be able to provide an access, to provide a way for people to access the services, where in the past everything was so centralized. You would have to go to your barangay captain, you would have to go to your mayor, to your vice mayor. It's not dissimilar from what used to be the feudal mentality of politics. And that's something that we'd like to try to change in Mandaue, where access is to basic services is guaranteed irregardless of political affiliation, irregardless of social standing, by providing help through the help centers.
Does this project that you have helps also address shelter for the urban poor?
Shelter is a challenge for us, given that Mandaue City is only 35 square kilometers. Land is truly at a premium. As a matter of fact, unless you buy land from certain unscrupulous individuals, land is very expensive in the city of Mandaue. And that has been one of the biggest hindrances that we've had. However, we're very grateful to the President, because last year he gave us quite a large budget to build socialized housing. And I think the trend nationwide has shown that the houses built by the NHA under the guidance of the President really have been much different from the housing programs of the past. We are actively scouting for land that we can build the balance of these houses on, because the only land we were able to find can only accommodate about 300 units. And we have waiting in the wings already an approved project for housing for government employees for the city of Mandaue, as well as for AFP and PNP personnel, also also approved by the President. But again, our biggest challenge is land.
It's can you just add, Mandaue City is like a migrant city. People go there to work, right? Because we continue to attract investments and large businesses also that are labor intensive. Perhaps it would be a good thing for Congress to put up incentives to employers, business owners who provide tenement housing for their employees. Because if we go around like what we do every morning, we go around, we start our handshaking at 6 a.m. in the morning, because by 7 a.m. most of the residents in the areas that we visit are going to work, because most of them are workers, right? But they're renting very tight spaces, small spaces, right? You know, less livable spaces actually. But if employers, businesses perhaps can provide tenement housing that houses for their own employees for rent, then it can lessen the pressure on the housing demand for our people in Mandaue City or that of Metro Cebu.
For Attorney Estenso, knowing all of these problems, do you think it's a good thing for Mandaue City to become a lone legislative district?
I understand that the Senate has already approved it. There was a bill that was forwarded to the Senate, or a bill approved in the lower house, and it was approved. I don't know if it has already been signed by the President. So it's there. I think it is in the office of the President. But going back to the suggestion, if the problem is lack of land space there in Mandaue, then perhaps we can take a look at maybe tenement houses, which if we cannot occupy lands, maybe we go up.
Yeah, because
So
like in
maybe
other
that's-
countries, they just go up.
Yes, just like in other countries, they have that. So, but there are still, according to the mayor, there are still some livable parcels of land. So after that, there is no way to go but go up.
Yeah.
Now, in the area of public safety, we have a question here. Is the increased number of drug-related killings of suspects good for Mandaue? And what's your stand on EJK and the drug war?
Well, I suppose I should preface my answer with the fact that in the last 3 years, Mandaue has become the safest city in Cebu. Our crime rate has fallen by 36%. And by every metric possible, Mandaue City is #1 in the fight against drugs in the entire Cebu province, in the Visayas, and we are actually top 5 nationwide in terms of the drug metrics. As a matter of fact, Mandaue City is now the most expensive place in Central Visayas to buy shabu, which is because we were able to successfully cripple the supply lines, the supply chains of the drug lords and the drug pushers. Now, with regards to the extrajudicial killings, one of the reasons, and I cannot speak to anywhere else in the country, I can only speak for Mandaue City. One of the reasons why AGKs are so prevalent in the city, have been prevalent in the city of Mandaue, is because exactly of our victory in the fight against illegal drugs. The places where drug lords and drug pushers can operate has constricted significantly in the city of Mandaue, and what we've seen are competing drug lords and competing drug pushers have taken it upon themselves to do what they can to stake their claim on what remains of the areas in which they can still operate. And unfortunately, they've taken that fight to our streets from time to time. What I can tell you is that in terms of those that have been neutralized in the city of Mandaue, all of them have had involvement in illegal drugs. There have been no innocent bystanders in the city of Mandaue when it has come to the fight against illegal drugs. And again, if the drug lords continue to fight over what is remaining in places that they can operate in Mandaue City, I'm fine with it, because eventually we'll get to those places too.
And will you get to those drug lords as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We already have been.
Several years ago, there was this news of saying that the biggest drug laboratories in Mandaue City, has that been closed? I mean, the issue has been closed already? It has been sort of raided already or discovered?
You mean if the case has been resolved?
Yes.
We really don't know. As far as I know, it was still being investigated by the PDEA at that time. What we do know now, based on the intelligence reports from the PDEA and the PNP as well as the military, is that large-scale shabu laboratories like what happened in 2005, I believe, no longer exist. What you have now is a series of smaller drug labs, because it is easier for the drug lords and drug manufacturers to have smaller operations that if they are compromised or raided, they will not, I suppose, be crippled sa ilang mga operation. In 2017, we found one of these facilities in Barangay Cubacub. We found freshly made shabu during one raid together with the regional office at the time. And apparently the lady that was operating that shabu lab was from Consolacion, and apparently she had a network of these places all around Metro Cebu, Talisay, Cebu City, and they used them as transshipment points. So working together with the PDEA and the police, we are trying to identify and we are trying to shut down as many of them as they pop up. But we're very grateful that again, in the city of Mandaue, the price of shabu is relatively high, relatively stable at being high, which means that they have not been able to establish a foothold in Mandaue City.
You know what, but this one is really such, this issue on drugs ba? You really wonder why people out there, even if they know that drugs can kill, that, can destroy their lives, nga nang mag-adik-adik pag yun. There's this supply, there's law of supply and demand, because a lot of people are demanding for it. A lot of drug addicts are demanding for it. So the supply is there, but if only they would just stop using it, I don't think drug lords will continue producing it, diba? What can you say, Mayor?
There was a good movie that was back in the 90s, and I may be dating myself, but there was a good movie back in the 90s where a drug addict, the movie opened with a drug addict, I think it was called Train Spotting. I don't remember. Anyway, there was a drug addict that was interviewed at the start of the movie, and he said that he understands that he's a drug addict, and people assume that drug addicts are stupid, right? Because everybody knows the ill effects of drugs, but they get into it because during the time that they are on drugs and they are high, and I'm paraphrasing here, they feel good, right? They forget about their problems, they forget about any issues, and that's why they keep doing it despite the damage that they are doing to themselves and the damage that they know that they are doing to themselves. However, this is the reason why we have focused our campaign on illegal drugs in Mandaue on going after the drug pushers and the drug lords. Now, we have what is widely considered to be one of the best community rehabilitation programs in the country. As a matter of fact, the DOH has come in, taken a look at our program, and is now replicating it nationwide because rehabilitation is expensive, and most drug addicts fall way below the poverty line. So what we do is we try to formulate a voluntary drug rehabilitation and community-based rehabilitation program. We started with our surrenderers, and it's been fairly successful over the last 3 years. Of course, since it's voluntary, you expect the attrition rate to be quite high. But be that as it may, if we're able to rehabilitate even a small segment of that population, we consider it a great service done to the city. So we are continuing our drug rehabilitation. We continue our efforts in going after the suppliers, no? Because at the end of the day, no matter how addicted a drug addict is, if there's nobody to sell it to them, then we feel that the addiction will eventually, be bypassed.
Is the church active in helping you in this drug rehabilitation?
Absolutely. The spiritual component is an integral component in our drug rehabilitation initiative. In that, we can deal with the health issues together with our city health and DOH. We can deal with the law enforcement issues by talking about the law and the penalties. But really, this is a matter of behavior modification, and that needs, in order to succeed, both an intellectual and a spiritual component to succeed.
Yeah.
Say the one that's been helping us in almost all the barangays are the faith-based ministries, the pastors. They're providing the spiritual component. In one barangay, though, we have the Dilab, who's started the Labang program. But in the 26 barangays in Mandaue City, the faith-based ministries, the pastors, have been with us from day one to today. And the city of Mandaue is one of the 7 pilot LGUs in the entire country that has been identified with the Dangerous Drugs Board of the Philippines and the Department of Health on the community-based rehabilitation program. So drug rehabilitation program in the villages, in the barangays right now. And we are the only city that that has been given a outpatient drug rehabilitation clinic for moderate cases of drug dependency. We're the only one in the entire Visayas.
Okay, that's nice.
I personally believe that, well, this is just me, that in this fight against drugs, especially for the drug users, there's no way to really help them get over, like what you said, Mayor, it's, they have problems, they're depressed, they have all of these, mga issues, mga baggage, and only God can really pull them out of it. And it's to the church. If you have a really strong faith-based organization support, the church gets involved, this all depravity of the mind, I'm pretty sure. And I know a lot of people who have been saved. People who have been jailed, as a matter of fact, mga criminals, when they get out of the prison, they become pastors, they become, preachers, because they're arrested by God in the prison. So we should go back to God.
One of the reasons why we feel that this community approach is so important is because the support system needs to be there for the recovery to avoid the recidivism. At the end of the day, the reason why most people go into substance abuse, whether it be drugs, alcohol, nicotine, is usually because of escapism. They had an existing problem that they had difficulty coping or dealing with, and that's why with the community-based rehabilitation program, hopefully it's a avenue to remind the family and the loved ones of the affected person that that they need to assist as well.
Yeah, just like that, one last thing, the approaches that we've made, we have done the drug enforcement, law enforcement, apprehension of pushers and the apparatus of the drug syndicate, plus the community-based rehabilitation program. Mandaue City was chosen last December and awarded by the Department of Interior and Local Government as the highest performing anti-drug abuse council in entire Central Visayas.
Congratulations.
That's good news.
Before we go to this one about family, and I'd like to go back to infrastructure development. Can you tell us more about what happened to the closure of the big hotel?
Sure. Basically, big hotel does not exist as far as Mandaue City is concerned because the contract was with a hardware company. It would be akin, for example, if somebody, a friend of yours, came to you and asked to borrow your car because they had no means of transportation, and you found out a week later that they were an Uber driver. It really is that situation. Basically, it was a hardware company that came to us and got the lease. They turned around and sold it to the company that was operating Big Hotel for 25 million pesos. And Big Hotel had operated in a small portion of what was a huge lot. Now, we gave them about 2 years to get their act together and follow the legal process and procedure. However, they refused to because siguro na yung nagpasalig nila. And unfortunately, we came to this point. But I suppose even the management and owners of Big Hotel will say that we did try to give them as much time as possible in order to rectify the situation. We feel, and it has been supported by the Commission on Audit, that our position on that matter was absolutely correct and legal. And while they dispute the COA allegations, we do not have that luxury. As a local government unit, and lest it be forgotten, the land that they are occupying is a government lot. So we have to follow the recommendations of the Commission on Audit. We can send an appeal, but at the end of the day, the Commission on Audit is the final arbiter of whether government assets, government properties, and government funds were used properly.
And the recommendation was just for the city of Mandaue and Cebu Corporation to come up with a new lease contract, which they refused. Right? Which they refused. This situation is a pure commercial transaction. It doesn't have any public interest here. It's about the city of Mandaue as the lessor and Cebu Corporation who's supposed to be an assignee of the lessee. Right? To simplify it, ikaw ay tagiya sa yuta, na nangabang sa yuta nimo, and then all of a sudden, this katong nangabang sa yuta nimo, iyang gibaligya ang iyang right sa kayuta sa lain tao. You as the owner, you have every right to demand that I should say yes to I should find out whether I agree to the new occupant of my land. And if I so agree, I need to have a new contract with them.
So gipasablis nila. In other words, no.
I-assign.
Baligya agad.
So, I mean, as if you're losing control over your own land. It's not just a land; it's also a building because the one that they leased was actually the land and the warehouse. It's a very prime asset of the city, and it seems our hands are tied. And we were vindicated when the Commission on Audit came out with the report that there should be a new contract of lease between the new occupant and the city of Mandaue, which they refused to do so.
So the management of Big Hotel refused to come up with a...
That's not Big Hotel. The Sinori Corporation refused because Sinori Corporation is the assignee, and Big Hotel is a lessee of Sinori Corporation. So it's like several entities are now involved in the land. So Big Hotel is managed by Travel B. Travel B is leasing from Sinori Corporation. Sinori Corporation is an assignee of Katumanon Hardware, who is the actual lessee of that land owned by the city.
Complicated. It's complicated.
So if you're the landowner, you want to simplify things, you want to protect your interests, and you wanted to protect the interests of the city. And the commissioner now they said there must be a contract of lease, but they refused. So with their refusal, you have no choice. They have no business permit, then we close.
Okay.
Alright.
Sige.
We'll go to some of the topics that are close to your heart and close to the city. Sure. In terms of family, drama kayang family, no? Mandaue City is known for its clannish culture and close family ties. We have very specific questions for Mayor and for Vice, and also for Attorney Estenzo. For Vice Mayor Carlo, do you have plans of getting married?
Of course. Of course. You don't want to live alone all your life. Otherwise, I would have chosen the priesthood.
All right. And then for Mayor Luigi, how are your relations with your grandfather?
Not great. Unfortunately, there are certain acts that happen that whether it's family or not, it's really difficult for us to tolerate illegal activity. And while my grandfather has nothing to do with it, there are certain persons around him that have committed some quite serious acts. And because of that, they have used my grandfather as a means to attack me. However, my grandfather's stance has always stood for integrity. And I'm positive that when all of these things come to light, he will understand why everything happened this way.
And for Attorney Estenzo, what can you say about family politics in Mandaue?
Well, they've been saying that Mandaue is clannish, but I don't think so. I still believe that Mandauehanons and those migrants in Mandaue are intelligent voters. They said that they are Team Mandaue because they are Oanos and Cortes. I am an Oano Cortes because my grandfather, Elias Oano Cortes, and my grandmother is Florencia Adolfo Suico. These are big Mandaue families. So, and besides, I think I'm not happy with saying that it's the Mandauehanons, the native Mandauehanons, who will determine the results of the election, because I think they're not just insulting the natives but also the migrants. Because as I have said, I always believe that the people in Mandaue are intelligent voters and they will select the best candidate for the positions.
I have a question here. We're talking now about families. Let's talk about political parties. Mayor, you used to be in one party, serving side by side with Jonas Cortez. What happened?
I was blamed for his corruption. He entered into several very anomalous contracts, and I think that when these came to light, he blamed me for bringing it out. You know, it's unfortunate, but the allegations against him and the case that he is facing really does have the potential to be the single most corrupt act in Mandaue City history. And while I understand that he must be upset that it came to light, wa man siguro kawatan na dili masuko kung madakpan. So again, at the end of the day, these were transactions willingly entered to by his administration, and you know, unfortunately, you deal with the consequences of your actions.
Attorney, since you were an Oano, your grandfather is Oano Cortez, so you're kind of related to Jonas Cortez then?
Yeah, they are our distant relatives.
Okay, so why did you join the group of Mayor Luigi then?
Well, as I have mentioned, a while ago, these are people who's not tainted with any corruption issues, and I think they are doing an exemplary service to the people of Mandaue. So I'll be happy to join them, and I'll be happy to assist them in Congress if ever I will make it to Congress.
Although I know of Juan Cortez though, a good friend of mine who's supporting you.
Yeah. One,
Saiville.
if I may, one thing that I always have been and always will be proud to associate with about being from Mandaue and about being from Cebu is that Cebuanos have always historically rejected corruption. Cebu has always been on the side of history, I suppose, when it comes to the candidates that win in the elections in Cebu. And while there are pockets of resistance to that philosophy left, the vast majority of the people of Mandaue and the people of Cebu understand better choices. And well, again, at the end of the day, we are not dealing with the politics of 25 years ago, nor are we dealing with traditional politics and trapos. We are dealing with a much younger electorate. We are dealing with an electorate that is dynamic, that, if I may say so, do not adhere to just one stream of information. They usually seek out several sources for confirmation. And we've seen on the streets of Mandaue every time we go, in the basketball courts, in the sitios, every time we have our pulong-pulongs, just how strong we believe in the faith of the people of Mandaue.
Yes, Vice?
Yeah, being clannish in Mandaue has its good points, right? And you can see that in family gatherings, in times of despair or times of joy. But it should not be a reason for being entitled. Because apparently the campaign slogan of our opponents is that they're anak daw sa Mandaue, so they're the only one entitled, right? That shouldn't be the case. Look at America. America's greatness was because of its migrants, not just of people who were born in the United States. In the same way with Mandaue City. Our population then, before I was born, when during the time of Attorney Stenso, you could probably know everyone, right? When you go to church, you know everybody, but now you don't because a lot of people have moved to Mandaue. But these are the very same people that made Mandaue greater than it was before. And we owe it to them, right?
Yeah. I think one of the, in the area of corruption, one of the most glaring issue during election is vote buying. So vote buying. So from your sources from the field, how much is every vote sold? If you have any idea.
Yes, attorney, you wanna answer that?
Yeah. In my sorties, I always I'm more on educating the voters than anything else. In my sorties, I always tell the people attending to decide whom to vote using three criteria. Number one is competence. No? Is he qualified for the position that he is aspiring for? Second is commitment to public service. Okay. What is his track record? Has he done service to the constituents? If he has already been, if he or she has been in public office, what has he done? Has he done something that really benefited the people? And the third one is character. Does he have honesty and integrity? That's why I always tell them that voting is a sacred right. Do not sell your votes. Because as I have seen in your slides, 3,000 pesos is equivalent to 3 years of difficult or 3 years of misery.
Okay.
Yes, Vice.
It's funny, when we go house to house campaign, There are some people who say, bay sa mga lista. What's on lista? What's on lista para Christmas game? I mean, it's somehow it's a culture. No, it's a
Yeah.
part of culture, and it's something that we want to change, of course. But looking at the bigger picture, people who chose to do that are usually those people who are really less well off, right? So if the economy becomes better, you don't see those kind of circumstances anymore. And that's what we're doing right now in Mandaue. We try, Mayor wasn't able to say it, but we used to be ranked number 73 in competitiveness in the entire country.
Number 73.
73.
Mandaue City.
Mandaue City.
Now?
In 2 years' time, we're number 13.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Right?
All over the Philippines?
Yeah,
That deserves a
all the
round of
cities, right?
applause. No, congratulations.
Because to be competitive means like you bring in more people, you bring more investments, and you bring in more investments, you give people jobs, you give people opportunities to have small businesses. You put money in their pockets. Right?
Okay.
So, and then during election time, if I have money, I don't need it. So slowly we try to do that, but it's a very complex thing.
Still about competitiveness. On basic services, Mayor, Vice Mayor, how's the water situation in Mandaue? Do you also have water shortage? And if you also have that, because in Cebu City, I know there is that problem, time immemorial problem, even where I am from, in Talisay, that's also a big problem there. And what are your solutions, if ever?
Well, generally, the water situation in Mandaue is stable. We were actually working together with JICA up to about a year ago to install a sewage and septic treatment plant in Mandaue that would have served most of the northern part of Metro Cebu. Unfortunately, when JICA came in to begin the implementation process, that's when we found out through the tests that JICA was conducting that the land is unsuitable for building because of the methane gas deposits, as I mentioned earlier. So, unfortunately, that would have been something that would have been tremendously helpful to the water quality in Mandaue. We're relatively stable, but we really need to work on the development of the water utilities and the provision of water. Water is not a new problem to Cebu. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we were already talking about impending water shortages, which is frankly unacceptable considering that we're an island and that water is the problem.
Exactly.
So, again, we must work, unfortunately, due to budgetary constraints. We need to work with the national government or with private investors to come up with things like desalination plants, for things like sewage and septic treatment, because given the challenges of local government budgeting, quite frankly, we can't afford it. But working together with other agencies, perhaps we'll be able to do that.
I just want to clear this. When Governor Davide and Vice Governor Magpale were here last Friday, we asked them about Smartmatic and if they also got Texas offering them that they're going to win, and then they said yes, to the tune of 5 million. You pay 2.5 now and 2.5 when you win already. Did you also get similar Texas?
From Smartmatic?
Me?
Yeah, I mean the three of you.
Smartmatic.
No, as a matter of fact, or not, I do get texts asking me to send load back to people every day. So.
Oh yeah, I get that too.
About those particular ones.
But none from
No, I never received.
all right.
Oh, wala ikaw, Vice.
I'll ask Attorney Gihulde first.
Okay. Just to complete the question on Vice Mayor Carlo, since he said that he wants to get married, do you have a girlfriend already? From a viewer.
Is it public?
Yeah, this is Facebook Live.
We're recording every statement.
They're hoping.
Someone occupies my heart now.
Ah, okay. Taken.
Occupy.
Okay. At least they can. Those who are watching right now can hope to see you, get married one of these days. Okay.
All right. Maybe Mayor can answer the vote buying issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is provide people with the luxury of choice, right? Because right now, most people feel that they need to be engaged in the system in either the provider or the recipient of vote buying because lisod ba yung panahon? Kanya, most people don't really have sufficient income, which is why many of them engage in the practice. Hopefully, by implementing the programs that we've started, by livelihood, by provision of basic services and education, we're hoping eventually people will have the luxury of choice. In that, maabot kita sa panahon na maingon sila na mo kay kwartadaan nga nung magpapalit man ko. Diba? Mao na ang among tuyo. And that's the aim that we're reaching for by working to provide better social services and better social protection as well for our residents.
Yeah. So that means the three candidates here can commit to no vote buying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is a Mega Cebu question. I know that Mandaue City is the co-chair representing the public sector in the Metro Cebu Development and Coordinating Board. But should you be given a fresh mandate, will you continue to support the Mega Cebu program, Mayor?
The tenets of Mega Cebu are very good. The objectives, I've always felt that Mega Cebu was on the right track. What we have always lacked in Mega Cebu is basically the force and effect of law to sort of compel all of the LGUs to adhere to a single unified development plan. Otherwise, if we continue to be merely suggestions, a advisory body, it's going to be very difficult to be able to implement and realize, not to mention to provide continuity for a lot of these projects, given that administrations change, personalities change. The ideas formulated by Mega Cebu are absolutely top-notch. They really are exactly what the exact resources that local government units should be following. But again, without the enforcement of a law which will formally create the body as far as the law is concerned, some LGUs will continue to implement what they feel is best for them, which may be best for them, but not best for Metro Cebu. So again, if we're able to take the next step in evolution, so to speak, for Mega Cebu by making it a actual legal supervisory body for the local governments in Metro Cebu, then absolutely, sky's the limit.
We actually have a lot of other questions, but we don't have time anymore. So for all of those who sent their questions via Facebook Live, you can still send them there. I mean, just type your questions, and we will. Of course, our candidates actually have their own Facebook pages. I know that Mayor Luigi is very active in Facebook. He might be able to just answer those questions when he has time from his campaigns anyway. And there are also some people watching right now who would like to be waved to. So, because nagkasikat na magaling ato ang Mega Cebu candidates for Mayor, Vice. Yeah, so we would like to say hi to those who are watching. Randy and Lucho Espinosa, hello. Thank you for supporting us. Okay. And Mayor, wala naman kay pangutana din ha, no?
Let's wind this up.
Yes. For your closing statements, we'll start with Attorney.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope that this May 13, the 2019 elections will be different from the others. No more vote buying. Let's put a stop to corruption, and let's really select the best candidate for the positions they're aspiring for. Thank you.
What will they do before that? What will they do if people will approach them and try to buy their votes?
Well, number one, if they can refuse it, refuse it. But if they cannot, accept it, but do not buy for the person offering that money, because that is just the seed for corruption.
Okay. Dawat lang. Dawat lang. Whoever gave it, mo gilibutaran.
Pwede
Yeah.
hindi na lang po dawan.
Dawat ang butas bangko.
Muna ingon ni talyok delay talyok makalso. Kana ang paon ilwa ang taga.
Okay. Dindot na da.
Thank you so
Okay.
much, Vice Mayor.
Vice.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. It's like 2 hours, but it's like, it's a very nice feeling to be here and to have this kind of discussion. And to the people of Mandaue who are watching, thank you for supporting us for the last 2 years or 3 years of administration. We will continue to fight for you. We'll continue to fight for a better Mandaue. So let's join hands and we can work together, and hopefully you can give us a fresh mandate for a greater and a better Mandaue and a greater and better Cebu.
Thank you so
And
much.
Mayor Luigi.
I mean, considering we've been talking for the last 2.5 hours, I guess there's really not much more to say. Just a happy Easter in advance, everybody.
And okay, so we wish you the very best, and whoever will be the blessed, the kumusultig lucky, because I believe in divine appointments. It's all by the hands of God. No? So whoever God will put there in Mandaue City Hall, we wish you the best, okay? And as we were having this discussion, actually, we have documenters out there taking note of what you said. So we will be flashing it on screen. We'll read it. And then if you can just say that that's correct, if there's something that we weren't able to capture, please do let us know so we could change it, edit it. And then we're going to have you affix your signature, of which anad naman ka, ana, Mayor, no? Pirma sa ato ang bugsay, anad naman mo, ana. So let's start with, okay, so for Mayor Luigi, the goal is to balance Mandaue's economic progress to reach the poorest of the poor. On the CICC plan, the proposed entertainment complex will be a game changer via public-private partnership with a convention center, high-density residential area, and gaming casino, part of the new Mandaue Business District. The biggest challenge, lack of usable land for investors, mass housing, on traffic, strict enforcement on the short term, widen road capacity, yes to mass transit, but we need all modes, habal-habal, tricycle, bus, jeep, water taxis, private cars, acquire land for temporary roads, open alternate routes. On the tri-level flyover, on UN Avenue, under discussion with DPWH. On the flooding, the 2018 Drainage Master Plan will be carried out. On waste management, Mandaue's ban on single-use plastic makes it a campaign leader. Umapa dump site closure, it's fire-prone. Ticking time bomb, livelihood training programs are provided for affected families. On shelter programs, ongoing construction of 300 units of socialized housing through HNA. Socialized housing, NHA, housing for government employees approved by the President. On EJK and drug war for the last 3 years, Mandaue is the safest city in Cebu province. Mandaue has created a voluntary and community-based rehabilitation program for drug addicts. On the water, stable situation, JICA has sewage septage plan, but the land is unsuitable for building due to methane gas deposits. On drug war, 30% drop in crime rate. Mandaue is number 1, 36%. Mandaue is number 1 in fight versus drugs and top 5 nationwide. Crippled supply lines. Mandaue is the most expensive place to buy shabu. Shows there is no foothold in the city. Successful community-based voluntary drug rehab program. Your stand on EJK, no innocent bystander killed. In the drug war, street killings are a result of war among rival pushers. On family, whether family or not, it is difficult to tolerate any illegal activities. Cebuanos have historically rejected corruption. We are not dealing with traditional politics of long ago, but young, dynamic voters. And that's it, 3. Everything captured, Mayor? Okay, very good. Can we have now the bugsay for his signature?
For Vice Mayoral candidate Carlo Fortuna, the following are his agenda as mentioned. Greater things are yet to come for Cebu and Mandaue City. CICC plan of a $300 private investment will change Mandaue's landscape to be an infinite city of global scale. In terms of traffic, continue working with DPWH projects City Council adopted JICA study for urban rail-based mass transit. For flooding, work with Cebu City to catch rainwater from upland areas that flow to Mandaue City. Yes to zero waste in Butuanan River via collaboration with private establishments instead of policeman role. Next, waste management needs integrative approach. Mandaue City sends its waste to processing in a facility in Consolacion and is exploring the possibility of working with a firm in Cebu City. In terms of housing, ask Congress to pass a law to incentivize employers to provide tenement housing. In the issue of drug war, collaboration with faith-based ministries and CSOs are key in drug rehabilitation programs. And in the topic of family, yes to marriage goal, someone occupies his heart now. And another item for drug war, DILG awarded Mandaue for exemplary performance of its city anti-drug abuse council and the only city recognized in Region 7. And lastly, Mandaue City's competitiveness improved from rank 70 for the past 3 years, to number 13 in the country. Anything else, Vice?
Correct, Tanan, Vice. Okay. And so we move on to Attorney Estenzo. Why did you run? To serve Mandaue City and the 6th District of Cebu. I'm running with candidates not tainted with corruption. The role is to help local officials access national budget for development projects. On metro problems like traffic and water, need an integrative approach and national legislation. On clannish Mandaue, I don't believe that Mandauehanons are clannish and that only native families can determine the results of the elections. I believe that the natives and migrants of Mandaue are intelligent voters. To the voters, judge a candidate based on competence, commitment, and character. Do not sell your vote. Okay.
Let us give the three candidates a round of applause.
Thank you very much to our candidates. And now it's time for the photo opportunity.
So let's give a round of applause to our candidates from Mandaue City, Yay, and 6th District. Pictures at. Our next forum would be this Wednesday, April 10. That is with, hopefully with the camp of Jonas and Mayoral and Vice Mayoral candidate of Lapu-Lapu City, and also Vice Mayor and Mayoral candidate of the Municipality of Consolacion. That would be this Wednesday. The next forum would be Monday, which is April 22, after the Holy Week. That is with the North LGUs, Compostela, Laloan, and Mandaue City. And the following days would be the South LGUs from Talisay City to Karkar City. Then the last would be April 29. That would be with Cebu City. Thank you, Attorney. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming, and see you next Wednesday.